Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, where we chat with industry leaders and get their take on the challenges facing the market. And maybe we'll have a little fun along the way.
On this week's episode of the Marketing Stir, Vincent is joined by Eugene Santos to discuss the nuances of reaching the Hispanic consumer and the successes of Prudential's Protect Your Life's Work campaign.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Stirista's The Marketing Stir. I am your happy host, Vincent Petrofessa, the Vice President of B2B Products here at Stirista. It is so great talking to you, ladies and gentlemen. I am coming to you without, unfortunately, my co-host for another episode. What happened? Where is he? I know, he misses this. He's of course, our CEO, AJ Gupta. We have a lot of stories to tell you. He and I were just in San Francisco at a conference. He was in San Diego, but he apparently loves California, which is great because, hey, we have a guest from that area as well. So we'll get to that in a moment. Let's pause and talk about Stirista for a little bit. That's it. We are a marketing technology company. We own our own business-to-business data, business-to-consumer data. We help companies through our technology and our data get new customers. Email me, Vincent@Stirista.com. See, I didn't put my last name in the email to confuse everyone. Just Vincent@Stirista.com. And we have an amazing show today. Again, even though my co-host is not here, I know he'll miss this episode because this episode and this particular person is doing something that Stirista was founded on, right? And it's a great story. There's another guest, and you probably hear me say this a lot, but not for every guest, where I'm like, I know this guy. We would have hung out. We would have been friends. We never met in person, but I get the sense. He's probably like, no, I would never hang out with you. If this is you all the time, I'm not hanging out with you, Vincent. It sounds like what my wife says to me every day. But we have an amazing guest from an amazing company, Prudential. We have the marketing director, Hispanic market, Prudential Financial, my new friend, Eugene Santos. What's going on, Eugene?
Hey, Vincent. Hey, I would hang out with you. You definitely look at one of those guys that I would like to hang out with.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. See, I was like, I get that sense. I'm like, we hang out, we talk baseball, we talk sports, we talk life, and have a lot of fun doing it. Eugene, let's get into it because I love what you're doing. I love your story of why you're doing it. So let's get into Prudential Financial and what you're doing there. People have heard of Prudential, of course, but like your role in particular.
Yeah, Prudential Financial has been around actually, we're just celebrating our 150th year anniversary. So big kudos to us. But Prudential is within the financial and insurance institutions. We are the rock when it comes to helping people, one, for their retirement solutions, getting ready for either individual life insurance, group insurance, wealth management. We like to consider ourselves as your partner to get you ready for retirement or to, quite frankly, build generational wealth. And I love that. It's something that I gravitate towards too. And quite frankly, the reason I gravitate towards Prudential is because they walk the walk. And that's the way I see myself. And so I'm very fortunate to be in a company like this.
Yeah, no, it's funny you said that. As soon as you said The Rock, I'm thinking of like, oh my God, that's like the, I can picture it now, the blue, right? Blue and white. And it's, yeah, look at that. Brand awareness at its finest. I love it. 150 years. Congrats. That is amazing. Eugene, talk to us about, in your title, you walk the walk, right? The Hispanic market. What are you doing there with the Hispanic market? What drew you to that and why? I'd love to learn more about it.
That's a bit of a story, but let me see if I can break it down. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am the son of two immigrant parents. Both parents migrated to the U.S. One, my mom from Managua, Nicaragua. She escaped the Sandinista War, so she escaped for basically for her life. And my dad is from Puebla, Mexico, and he left because he just felt like he needed a better life for himself. As one of two children and the only child to leave the U.S., that was a big risk for him. So I definitely can tell you about my immigrant story, right? And growing up, targeting the Hispanic culture and the American culture because I was born in the US. I had a hard time, to be honest. I had a hard time coming into my own. And if I were to describe my childhood, I would say I felt like a child without a country. Was I Mexican? Was I American? When I lived in Mexico, or fortunate enough to live in Mexico, I didn't feel Mexican enough to hang out with my Mexican friends. And then I also felt like when I came back to the States, not American enough to hang out with my American friends. And that, quite frankly, was the impetus to my role now. As I grew up and I started to have more life experiences, I told myself, like, you know what? There's beauty of being able to do both, being American and Latino descent. And that's quite frankly what drove me into learning and becoming an expert in multicultural marketing because I felt I don't want other people to feel what I felt, like they don't belong or that products are not attainable to them. And what drew me specifically to Prudential was here's a company that really believes on providing services that would help someone have a better retirement or be financially secure. And that felt like, hey, I can do that for the Hispanic American consumer. And that's why Prudential hired me because of my expertise. And I'm about to have my 2-year anniversary in May. And I'll tell you what, in those 2 years, Prudential has shown me by far more than some of my other employers that they really want to do right by all customers, not just Hispanic customers. But I have the privilege to be responsible for the Hispanic marketing strategy in how we communicate our services and how we communicate that we're the right partner for the Hispanic community.
Well, I love that. I love your backstory there, Eugene. I'm sure there's a lot of people who, circumstances similar felt that way, and you're doing something about it. And I love that about you. And one of the things why I said in the beginning of this podcast that our CEO is going to miss out is because our CEO is of Indian descent, so he lives in the U.S. and one of the things that he started Stirista for was he felt that multicultural, that area of marketing was just really underserved. And the very first client that Stirista had was helping them tap into the Hispanic market. And it was our first customer. It's been a passion of ours ever since. So Stirista is kind of almost like the mixing of cultures. That's what really it means. So I love that you're doing it. Talk to us. How are you approaching? How is Prudential approaching the Latin market?
Every consumer is different, whether Black, Blue, Hispanic, Asian, African American. Um, what I really love about marketing is that no consumer is the same, and even that same consumer can be broken up very differently, right? And so when it comes to the Hispanic consumer, it's just another consumer. They just have a different way of looking at life. They have a different backstory. Maybe the bottom line for them is protecting their family like any other consumer, but the way they love to be talked to or connected with is a little different, right? Because our story comes from immigrants, right? Comes from migrating from from a different country. Sometimes that's because of political reasons, sometimes that's financial reasons. And as a marketer, to be able to understand the reasoning behind that and how we connect with that consumer is what I love about my role. And quite frankly, what I love about Prudential. Prudential wants to make sure that they understand the consumer so that when we let them know about our services, they feel like, wow, you really understand me and what I want for my future, for my family. You're definitely the partner that I see myself linking with, right? And that really is what it's all about, is that connection with a consumer, just like you and I have a connection now while we're doing this podcast, or you may have a new client and you want to know about what makes them tick and how do I position my product to make them feel like, wow, Prudential is a product or a company that I can see myself being partners with.
Love it. I love it. Love the way you approach it. Eugene, let me take a step back because we talked about, some of the reasons you're working Prudential Financial there, but how did you get started in marketing in general? Was it something you studied? Was it something you fell into? We ask every single one of our guests this, and it's never the same answer.
That's an interesting story. Actually, my first love wasn't marketing. My first love was music. I grew up a trumpet player. I grew up from two very highly musical families, and wow, I think I was 7 when I picked up the trumpet for the first time, and quite frankly, I was pretty good. So going through high school and being as a senior in high school, I had to make a decision. Like, did I want to be a aspiring musician and potentially a starving musician, or did I have to have something more stable? And quite frankly, there was pressure of me being the eldest son of a Latino family in making sure that the household was taken care of. And it's one of the regrets in my life that I didn't pursue a music degree. So I decided to go into business because, again, as growing up and I saw maybe the discrepancies in how I felt certain companies communicated to the Hispanic consumer, I felt that I could really make a difference there. That's how I got into marketing. And quite frankly, I love everything about marketing because really what it is about making connections with people, understanding your consumer, and from there building a relationship that allows you to have a partnership, in this case, a business partnership or a services partnership. But even further than that, I felt like it was just what allowed me to connect with um, other folks that were perhaps wanted to be in the position that I was, if that makes any.
No, no, it definitely does. It makes complete sense, and it's like you're walking the walk because, like you said, your background, your Hispanic background, you're marketing to, you know, your own. So it's
Right.
kind of like, it's not like, oh, I'm doing marketing and I'm discovering these different groups. You're the group.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is me growing up. I went the whole spectrum of as a young Latino to where I'm at right now. I went from speaking only Spanish to being very, very tied to the Hispanic culture to then learning English, dominating English, and then straddling both languages in both cultures. And it's funny because I'll tell people like, hey, I can wake up and have huevos rancheros in the morning, and then I'll have my prime rib steak, so I can straddle both worlds. And the beauty of that is that it allows me as a human, on the human side, to really have an open mind of differences of people, right? And I take that from a marketing perspective or a business perspective and say, okay, how do I really connect with every consumer? And even within the Hispanic consumer, there's that spectrum, right? From a Spanish dominant Hispanic to an English, maybe second, third, fourth generation Hispanic, Latino. How do we communicate to them? So that's the beauty of multicultural marketing is there's different sections or sectors or ways to dissect that consumer. And no day is the same, no communication is the same. And what I love about Prudential is that we really believe at looking at the entire consumer as an opportunity for us, not just by culture or by ethnicity, but really we love to understand the consumer and modify our approach to them so they feel that Prudential really is that partner that's going to help them feel financially secure and be prepared for retirement per se.
Mhm. Yeah, because there's sometimes there's markets that, like you said, are underserved. It's maybe not being spoken about. Even like my own household, my mother worked 3 jobs to put food on the table. We never talked about saving and finance, financial wellness, and I would imagine that's true for a lot of different, areas. And so, and this is an Italian American background where it just maybe, as the time, but talk to us about what makes Hispanic consumers unique compared to other groups.
That's a great question. So let me tell a little bit about my life story. Maybe from there I can connect it. I used to be ashamed, but I'm not anymore. I'm actually very proud to let people know. And I grew up poor. I grew up in my younger years cleaning churches for government cheese. And I say that because we used to clean churches and we would get government assistance. I went from that, from seeing my mom use food stamps growing up, to both my mom and my dad graduating high school in the States, right? Having a better life for themselves. My dad eventually going into real estate, my mom eventually becoming a chef. And their kids also seeing that and growing up to all being first generation college students, to myself being the first in my family to college from an undergrad and an MBA from USC in top honors. So I'm a walking billboard of that American uh, story or American success. And so I take that and I use that as a way to genuinely convey the Hispanic story to my executives so they can understand. Look at me. Like I'm in this position with you, and I came from nothing. So the Hispanic consumer has that story of leaving their home country, coming here for a better life for themselves. And these are the steps that they take to come to where I'm at. That's a consumer that we should not overlook. That's a consumer that is passionate about protecting their family, providing their family. They're passionate about the US. They're passionate about our culture. They love mixing cultures. And quite frankly, are someone that wants what everybody has. Our story just has a different flavor to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. And thank you for sharing that with us. It's like, I resemble a lot of those uh, remarks where, you know, different as far as culturally how I grew up, but mother, 3 jobs, single mom, right? Government assistance at a lot of times, but really pushing through. But I love that story because, like you said, that market, it's like money and saving it, giving it to family members. It's such an important part of that. And I think, again, I grew up Italian, but I resemble those remarks of not having anything growing up. And what you've done is great, Eugene. I really like. I mean that. We sometimes don't get this deep on the podcast, but I love
No,
it,
it's
man.
okay. And like I said, growing up, I was very ashamed about that. But I mean, that's the Hispanic Latino story. It's from the ground up, right? And there's a lot of passion around that. There's a lot of community around that. There's a lot of making sure that we honor our last name, or that's huge in my family, honoring our name or honoring my mom and dad who came to the States to make a better life for themselves. And here I have 4 siblings that are successful, and we're doing our part, right? Now, if you want to talk, let's leave maybe the humanistic part out of it and look at it from a financial perspective. The Hispanic community in 2023 generated $3.2 trillion in GDP. So you look at that, that's like the 5th largest economy in the world. So numbers alone, or financial numbers alone, from a financial perspective, tells us there's a large opportunity within that community, right? You also look at Hispanics account for about 80% of the workforce by 2030. So if you, as a true marketer, want to make sure that you're successful, you can't deny those numbers, right? Or that the Hispanics are outpacing any other ethnic culture in the US. Those are stats, hard fact numbers that you can't ignore as a marketer or as a business person. Now, the beauty of the work that I do and the beauty of what Prudential understand is that there's an opportunity to intertwine or mix those two in making sure that we're not ignoring a big population of the US. We're not ignoring a big opportunity for us, not necessarily for financial gain, but like that's the right thing to do. That's what I really love about Prudential. It's in other companies where it was more about financial gain. Here for us, it's more about what's the right thing to do, and let's not forget about some of these on average over or underserved communities.
Yeah. No, I love that. And your passion shines through. People can, see it, they can hear it. So that is amazing. Let's talk about that passion. Let's talk about one or more of the campaigns you worked on thus far, Eugene, that you really loved, that were special to you.
I'm not just saying it because I'm with Prudential now, but last year we launched our Protect Your Life's Work campaign. And what I really loved about this campaign and the essence of this campaign was to let folks know that, hey, Prudential can help you get ready for retirement. Not only retirement, but that second chapter of your life. That second chapter of life should be as, if not more rich than when you were your working years. And this was the first time that I, in my 25-year career, have been able to create a campaign from the ideation of the campaign to the key messaging, to the creative, to the landing pages, to the website strategy, to the communication strategy, to even the TV spot that we did was all with Spanish in mind. And that's a rarity for me in my career from a quote unquote American company. Normally, companies think about it from a what are we doing from the general market side and how do we translate? And unfortunately, translating English campaigns is not the way to go. The Hispanic consumer sniffs that out real quickly. A lot of companies don't see that, but the Hispanic consumer feels offended and feels like they don't see me as a client or a consumer, they see me as a dollar bill. And here we knew that. And I have leadership that understands that and truly believes, hey, we have to be unique in the way we communicate with the Hispanic consumer. So being able to do a campaign from start to finish with Spanish thinking in mind first really had a great success for us and is now driving the work I'm doing here in 2025 and where I want to take Prudential in 2026. It's really, can I say this? It just feels really damn good. Yeah, it just feels good. As a human first, as a person first, feels really good that I'm at a company that understands that.
That's amazing. And you could certainly say that. And what also I want to talk about, you said something, the future. Where do you think marketing campaigns are going within your division there? You mentioned the uniqueness, right? You're right. A lot of times it's just like dubbed over
Yeah.
some American actor, and you're like, wait a minute. So where do you think some of those trends are going for our listeners to hear? And like some of the things that their own companies could embrace serving the Hispanic market?
Two answers. So let me answer from first perspective, from a Prudential perspective. Some of our early results that we received from our Protect Your Life's Work campaign was that Spanish-speaking consumers really gravitated towards the campaign. And some of the folks that we polled felt like, you understand me, you know my story. You're not just trying to sell me a product. You want to help me be the hero of my family, right? To protect and provide for my family. And in fact, one of the things that we did was a little extra above and beyond is that we highlighted our Spanish-speaking Prudential advisors. And when a consumer saw, oh my gosh, there's people that look like me, that have the same story as me, people whose parents have the same story as me. It's when that relationship comes together. And for me, it's like, awesome. I just took someone who didn't think Prudential was something for them, and I married them to a Prudential advisor that can speak their story. And now they're feel like, wow, I am able to provide for my family. So some of the first indications of our campaign had done that. So I bring that up because for me, for 2025 is, as a marketer, now I want to slice and dice that information and really look at segmentation. How do I talk to a young 25-year-old English-speaking Hispanic or Spanish-speaking Hispanic to a 65-year-old Hispanic who is getting ready to retire? And how do we segment all that? As you know, because that's what you do, is like really at the segmentation study and see what are different personas and how do I, Prudential, now am able to modify what I'm doing now to even be more of a one-on-one relationship with the consumer. So that's what we're doing at Prudential. From a industry-wide, I like to look at pop culture as my indicator of where the market is going. And if you look at pop culture, nowadays, country is like, it's not the same. It's not the 90s countries that you and I know. It's very different.
Music wise, yeah, you mean?
Yes, sorry, music wise.
Yeah, country music. You're right. You're totally right.
Look, Beyonce just won Best Country Album. Right? So like that wouldn't happen in the 90s. You look at what's happening in the Latino pop or rock genre. Like there's English and Spanish. And for example, let's take Bad Bunny. Uh, uh, he has like transcended language barriers. And the first person who did that was actually Ricky Martin back in the 90s. But if you look at pop culture, most of the pop culture or the most relevant songs right now, they're all Spanish. So, oh, they're intermixed. And now I'm seeing, even in food, I'm seeing Japanese Mexican fusion. I'm seeing Vietnamese Mexican fusion. And you're talking to a foodie. So, like, so I take that as an indicator of where this country is going. Um, and so the young consumer or the young folks of the US are going to take us that. So as I look at it as a marketer, I better understand how to do marketing biracially, biculturally. And what does that mean? What does that look like? How does that affect my creative? How does that affect my audio, my TV spots, right? So that's where I see marketing is going. And I see multicultural marketing expanding to maybe not multicultural, but bicultural, right? I think myself, my daughter speaks Spanish, speaks English. She's light skinned, blue eyes, and she's gonna be taller. She's gonna be 6 foot. So when you look at that, you're like, wow. As a marketer, is like a gold mine. Like, how do you?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun, and that's where I see marketing going in the future. If you, as an organization or as a marketer, are not thinking in that way, you might be left behind. Um, and the last thing I'll say is, just like as a marketer, you shouldn't just know e-commerce. You shouldn't just know social media or CRM or data mining. You should be well versed in many of those aspects, because that's what keeps you competitive, and that's what's going to keep your company competitive.
Yeah. It's so funny when you're saying that. I was thinking of a few things. As soon as you said like pop culture, Bad Bunny is the first person I thought of. And you're right. It's like it's you see him all the time now on Saturday Night Live, and it's just kind of crossover. You're right with like all the music. Are you still you? Because I didn't want to skip over the fact that you love music and you played the trumpet. I don't know if you still do, but are you're in tune to music? How do you is that experience as a musician kind of allow you to be at the forefront, or like you're in it, right?
To be honest, one of my secrets of maintaining my creativity in marketing is I still play music. I didn't mention this before, but at one point I was rated the second best trumpet player in California. Uh, Behind me are some of my albums that I have. To the left is my guitars, my piano, and then up here I got my trumpet and flugelhorn.
Oh,
So,
no
so
way.
I'm still very much an active musician. In fact, one of the blessings that this company has for me is that I work East Coast hours. So around 3 o'clock, my day is pretty much done. I've gone back to school. I'm going to my local city college and I'm taking music degrees because music classes because I want to get my minor. It's one of the ways for me to just keep the creativity. Um, and it's just a good way for me to express myself. And if you were to ask me, I mean, I listen to everything. I was listening to some Coltrane the other day. I love me some country, I'll tell you that. But I also love me some Bad Bunny.
Yeah, it's so crazy these last where I live in Manhattan, speaking of music, Lady Gaga is staying at the hotel right next door, and every single day there's like 35 people waiting for her. And I'm like, this is insane. I got to see her twice, but I was like, this is insane. When is she moving out of this hotel? Because there's like, I don't know, I was just thinking about that. But that's great. You need to be at a company like that because this company here, Stirista, allows me to, they know that at night I'm a stand-up comedian and I
Oh,
tell,
wow.
yeah, and I tell jokes and they've been to shows and I host events in our conference, different conferences, and my CEO, we're way smaller than Prudential, of course, but they allow me to be me, and that's the mark of a great company, and just allow you to do things and and spark your creativity. So love hearing that. Eugene, let's talk about you as a leader, right? You've been at other companies before. How has your leadership style changed? Some advice for people who are looking to get into your field. Love to learn more about Eugene the leader.
My leadership style has definitely changed as I've gotten older. When I started my career, I started at American Honda. And I was fortunate that I started in a rotational program where they selected 1 out of 6 people in the US to do a rotational program. And my leadership style when I was just out of college was learn and do, just learn and do. And wasn't the best strategy because I wouldn't take the time to think and pause and see what could I do better. But as I become a father and older, I think I've taken more of a mentoring leadership style of really listening where that person is coming from, whether they're giving me an opinion that I agree with or don't agree with. I try to look at it from their perspective. And additionally, I feel that my leadership is one of rah rah, let's go. If it's your good idea, you love this idea, let's try it out. Why not? Let's do it. And I've always been told that I'm a blender. I'm able to blend things or different backgrounds and come up with a good output. And I think that comes from my experience growing up and not feeling like I was in my own, if you will, coming from having to straddle 2 different cultures where I feel like I'm able to understand different perspectives. And so, if I was to summarize my leadership style right now, it'd be more mentoring for sure. And if there's someone that maybe wanted to get into my field, and it's interesting you asked this because I'm mentoring 2 students, college students right now, and I tell them that um, learn your marketing ABCs. I mean, that's not going anywhere. Understand what marketing really is about. Everybody who wants to be a marketer should understand from segmentation to branding to the 4 C's and P's of marketing, the cultural aspect. If you happen to be of another culture, is just be you and take what you know as a person and intertwine it into the marketing that you do. What I tell folks is also follow the companies that you admire. Follow them and learn them. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Follow the companies that you don't admire and see why don't you admire them? What is it that they're doing differently that maybe you would do differently if it was you were in that position? It really comes up down to like learn as much as possible. And then the last piece of advice I would give is find a mentor. Uh, Look where you want to be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the line, and pick that person's brain. Do an informational interview. Take them to coffee and ask them point blank, like, what did it take for you to get there? What skills you think are relevant? That's important. And for me, that's important. I have a few mentors that are CMOs, and I pick their brain all the time. And sometimes I think to myself, I definitely want to be a CMO. And sometimes like, I don't know if I want to be a CMO, you know? So I think it's important and just to have curiosity for sure. And the last thing I think I'll say is just have a good, I won't say balance of work and life, let's have a good mix. Because sometimes there's going to be days where it's all business and maybe you don't have enough time with your family, but maybe the next day you make up for it. So how do you have that mix that feels right and good for you?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's where I'm now. When I was like, I'm still young. I'm like, no, you're not, Vin. You're not the. Yeah, and I'm taking on. I love the mentorship aspect of it. And just like you said, and I tell younger people that I've had mentors along the way, and I still do, and I'm still learning. And those mentors could be older or younger than you. It doesn't sometimes matter, right? Where we started an internship program here at Stirista. I take credit for it. I started, and we're it's just building those future employees and leaders. So love it, love the approach.
Vincent, I love that you said that it's okay to have younger mentors. Because I do. I have one mentor who is a musician, and he blows me away. I mean, just sometimes just talking with somebody who is different than you and might bring different ideas is the way to learn. And sometimes the younger audience or the younger generation has different ways to approach something that you might learn something from.
Yeah, exactly. And don't just think because when they're younger they don't know as much. Well, they might know more than you. And I always say, I was hosting a conference recently, and I said, be respectful of people, be nice to people. That young person now, you might need a job from that person in 15 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Eugene, let's get to know you a little more personally now. That's what we do with all of our guests. LinkedIn, with your title, the company, people must send you messages all the time. What's a message that resonates with you, and what's one that doesn't?
Blanket messages or emails are easy to spot, especially when it's the wrong name.
Yeah.
I actually a couple of days ago, someone reached out to me and called me Melissa, so I knew it was just a blanketed email.
Melissa from Eugene? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's just a marketing no-no. So those I ignore. To be honest, I'm one of those folks that doesn't like turning down meeting someone new. So if I feel someone puts effort in their message to me, or maybe did some research on my background or the company and is able to intertwine both of those, just like I would do for a consumer, then I feel that I owe them a minute, and I may let them know that up front. Tell you what, I got 10 minutes I can give you, and I'll hear them and then say, then I'm very kind about it. You know what? Great to meet you. I don't see that our services align, but let's stay connected via LinkedIn. So if they put an effort, I'll most likely say yes, and I like that message.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that you're nicer than most. That's great. You're you're nicer than most people that we've had. And he's like, nope, I don't want to talk to anyone. But I love it. You have to be. You have to be open to talking to people. I'm a similar way where if they get it right, look, don't try to get my last name right because you're never going to get it right. But get Vincent right, Vince. Melissa. That's funny. So Eugene, you already mentioned it. Your music you love, hanging out with the family. What else are some of your hobbies that you like to do? What are your weekends looking like? Experiencing some good foods? Talk to us.
Yeah. So actually, I'm into triathlons. I love to swim, bike, and run. I've done 4 Ironman in my lifetime. I've done about I'm looking at my medals. I'm done like 7 or 8 half Ironman. I like movement. I like I like the challenge of, you know what? Can I put 50 miles on the bike today and then run a few miles? I love the one-on-one time with myself. Um, in my daily life, I'm surrounded by work, by kids, my wife, friends. Uh, I sometimes just want that one-on-one time, and there's nothing like having a conversation with yourself 50 miles back and forward, right? And so I like that. It's something that keeps me going. Quite frankly, I feel it keeps me young. I also love to cook. Um, I do a lot of the cooking here at home. I love cooking. It's one of my love languages. I love experimenting with different recipes and spices, and I like to eat the food. Which is why I have to stay moving, right?
Oh yeah, forget it. I know there's nothing better than that like one-on-one time with yourself because I have a wife and 2 kids and it's always like blah, 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 and I always have to be on. I love when I just could just turn off and hang. I'm not doing triathlons. I'm not doing any of that, but I'm going for walks and I'm just thinking about myself. We're all right, so love it. Eugene, a parting thought that you want to say to our audience, young people listening or thought leaders like you, anything you want to share, the floor is yours.
You know what? Be a good human. And what does that mean to me is be open and loving. Be open to different experiences. Be open to different music, food, culture, way of thinking, way of receiving. I don't know. I have found a lot of peace in being openly loving and opening in receiving love. I actually think it's made me a better marketer because it allows me to see not everyone's the same. There's not one solution. There's many ways to approach something. And even in results that maybe aren't optimal, there's learnings there. And what do you take for those learnings? And for me, I'm going to steal something from my wife, and that is perpetual learning. Just continue to learn something, continue to expand your horizons. It makes me feel like I'm contributing to my self-worth and growth and to others at the same time.
Love it. I love it. What a great message. Your passion shines through, Eugene. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here at the Marketing Stir. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Eugene Santos, Marketing Director, Hispanic Market, Prudential Financial. Check out Prudential Financial. You know the company. Check them out. I'm Vincent Petrofessa. AJ will be back. This has been another episode of The Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com.